So the head of Codex, he comes in online and he says that 40% of development at OpenAI happens through agents. I think probably you yourself are looking at your product too, and then you're like, you also do, let's say, 40% of development through agents, and then you are now ahead than them, but you are really not. And in this video, I will try to help you clear out how to actually be ahead, how to actually not hallucinate that you are doing 40% of coding through agents, and how they are actually doing it very differently. So to start with, the idea of OpenAI is to bring in autonomous software product development. And this also includes the research part. This also includes the part where you're doing the planning. This also includes the part where you're trying to figure out what to actually build. So what is happening at the Codex is that they have this product which has the harness engineering layer built around it. Basically, OpenAI is the model that they have, right? So right now what's happening is that there is a model called GPT, right? GPT has different versions, you can say. Now they are coming up with 5.6 version, so right, and there is also 5.5 version, so there are several different versions of GPT itself. This is the model layer. Basically, this is where all of the weights on of the LLM part runs, let's say on the GPUs, but this is not what is used for coding. What is used for coding is the different layer. This is the harness layer. The harness layer is basically the codex, right? So the codex is what is used for actual development by people. By the way, just a fact, a lot of people don't realize that if you directly use GPT 5.5 or 5.6, you can get much better ideas, because this harness layer that is built, that is codex and then cloud code, actually just ends up using so much of dash and end up just using so much of already the ideas that are in the context that it just destroys your whole idea generation part. So we are going to talk about that too in this video. So but to start with, to go to basics, codex is basically the harness engineering layer, right? This is the harness layer that is built on the top of these models so that your system can do the actual software engineering development. And the whole job of this harness engineering platform is to, well, do a lot of things, so it actually has access to your files, right? So it first of all needs to know that which files to reach out to, because if it is not able to reach out to the correct file, it might miss out on the function. So it needs to have the large context, right? And that context window is basically 1 million for most of the GPT models now, right? The other part is basically the verification layer, right? You probably don't realize, but verification layer internally runs inside this Codex platform right now as well. What happens is that Codex will try to solve the problem internally. If you look into this JSpace is basically the article that Anthropic came out with. Anthropic says that basically there is a thinking that goes on in these models, like Fable 5, they did some debugging in which it also does the thinking process. It also does the thinking process like humans do. It thinks in words, and then they were able to see those words, and then it doesn't just think in the words that it is outputting, but it also thinks in terms of different spaces, right? That's a different layer, by the way. That's a different idea. So basically at the end of the day, there is also the verification layer. There is also the files layer, right? Verification layer is basically when you ask it to, let's say, make sure that all of the test cases are passing. It runs its own internal verification layer where it will try to reach out to files, and then it will try to look at the error, and then it will try to solve them. And then all of these other layers as well. Like I don't want to go into all of it. And now what happens is, let's say this codex model, this codex window that is there, right? Let's say there is a bug in it, right? The bug is that when you ask it to run the goal, and the goal is to actually, let's say, very specific, which is, let's say, debug the UI and add 5 features from Figma. Now for this part, which is basically the loop that a lot of you would be running, right? What happens is that your model, the codex, it is going to use its harness layer to go and then collect the data from Figma. this is going to be, let's say, the agentic call that is going to go to Figma, and then it is going to go and explore something on, let's say, even the Google Chrome browser, right? Even the Chrome browser, because it needs to see what is actually getting built, and then it now needs to explore the first feature, and then the second feature, and then the third feature, and then the fourth feature, and then the fifth feature, right? So there is all of this loop that already runs in and is already built in into this platform called Codex. So the Codex is not just the model itself. Codex also do a lot of other things that the model itself can do, that the model is, let's say, not good at. They know that model currently is not good at, let's say, designing the stuff, so they will build in a lot of prompts, a lot of let's say, embedded design into the Codex itself. So Codex actually become better at, let's say, designing it with 5.5, with 5.6, and not only that, they're able to collect this data there. When your model now application, for example, you use 5.5, right, and you did this thing and you ran it with the goal, what you will see is that a lot of time in the terminal it will fail, and then it will retry, and it will fail, and it will retry, and it will fail, and it will retry, and it will retry, let's say, 10 times. The GPT, let's say, will be able to look at this data, and then we will be able to, let's say that the only reason behind why we were not able to, let's say, solve this problem on the first go is because of this specific problem. Now it can learn from your goal, and then it can improve its Codex platform from it, and it can also improve the later on its GPT model from it. And that is the whole idea. The thing that I'm trying to tell you is that their platform, the Codex platform, and then their whole software line is built around this idea where they are able to collect a lot of ideas from, let's say, million individuals, and they are able to use that data to improve their software autonomously. And I think at the end of the day, they are not just doing 40% of autonomous development. It is probably far more than that if they look at it. If they look at it from the perspective of the idea generation, it is far more, because think about it. Before this, you probably can collect, let's say, a lot of logs that the layer where it is going through Figma, it is not able to, let's say, collect some kind of a components. But now, just because the problem becomes a little bit generic in nature, the problem becomes that is the agent able to crawl these Figma components or not. Now they're able to collect the data and then go back and then improve the harness layer, which is Codex, and then also improve the model itself, which is 5.6. And they are able to also use it for their training and performance, right? Because now they have more goals, right? They have more data that 5.6 soul can look at and then see that, okay, rather than going through these 10 loops, I can just go there in one loop. So the whole engineering of Codex is far different than what you have been doing, let's say, from the long time, right? What a lot of people are currently doing is, let's say, they will have a product roadmap, right? And inside the product roadmap, they probably, let's say, have 100 engineers that are already working on it, right? And those 100 engineers have 100 different features that they want to build, or let's say 1,000 features, right? It's like 10 features for each engineer. And then at the end of Q4, they are going to deploy it all. At the end of Q4, they will deploy it all. And what's happening is that right now these 100 engineers are doing the planning part on their own, right? They are doing the planning part on their own, and then they give it to agents for development, right? Then they give it to agents for development, and then it is delivered in Q4, let's say. Right now, let's say you say that the agents development that is happening right now, or the agents adoption that is happening right now in your company is, let's say, 100%, because all of the code is being written by AI. But the planning part, the part of the idea generation is still zero. Well, that's what I think Codex is trying to explain. The Codex is trying to explain that right now, the 40% of the idea generation, the 40% of the taste of building a product itself is actually being automated completely. And this is the different perspective. Now, what we can do is, let's say, either we can continue on the same path of, let's say, having 100 engineers and then having 1,000 features and then deploy them on the quarter basis. But what's going to happen is these companies like Crowdcode, they are going to get so much better at coding that they will be able to develop the complete product on their own, let's say. Right? They will be able to, let's say, develop the complete product that you have taken queue for like, let's say, 4 months for, and then 100 engineers for, just in one go, because 5.6 or let's say 6.6 version is so much better that they are able to copy the product, let's say, on one go. Because when you have to copy the product, you don't have to pen, right? You just have to, let's say, crawl your website, and then you have to crawl the ideas. You have to let the agent be able to use your product, get the taste, and then copy it and then deploy it. And at that time, at that point, your product will be redundant. Basically, there will be no use of your product because somebody has already built it. And just because somebody has already built it at the lower price, they can already sell it at the lower price, unless you are in the commodity market or different market, right? So that is the whole fear basically that is happening right now. The fear is that, first of all, these product roadmap, these companies that are there in the market from a long time, right? Let's say the corporates, right? They have built out this massive software, which is probably going to get copied by a lot of different people. Let's say Figma will be able to develop something that other 10 different corporate companies used to do in technology, and Figma will be able to, let's say, give those 10 features to their customers at the same price. And Adobe is going to now compete directly with Figma, or Figma is going to compete directly with Adobe, right? And same thing is going to happen with other platforms as well. People now have abundance of coding, basically. People now have abundance of features that they can build and copy, and this is basically the bloodbath. I'm not sure if, let's say, 6.6 comes out and then we realize that anybody can just copy the product. Only thing they need is tokens. Probably a lot of people are going to do it. So this is not the safe path. This will never be the safe path. As long as the planning part that is happening right now is, let's say, not in your control, is, let's say, something that you need help with, right? How do you push it back? How do you take it back? I don't know, but like you get the point, right? If, let's say, as long as the planning part is not automated, as long as the planning part is not something that grows recursively with every single user, with every single use, then there is no unique edge that you will have in 1 year or something. So rather than, let's say, aggressively moving over agentic development of, let's say, loop engineering, where you are able to build out a good spec and then you're able to deliver on something, what you should be actually focusing over is the planning part, is the idea generation part. That is something that, let's say, these GPT models will not be able to do that well, because idea generation is basically the taste, right? It is what you actually want to build. It is that would you rather, let's say, deliver let's take the example, right? When it comes to stand-up comedy, you don't like all the people or all the stand-up comedians, right? You only like few. You only like few who have the taste. Are other people able to deliver on the stand-up comedy or not? Do they have lines or not? Yes, they do. But then they're not really good at it. The one who is good at it is somebody who has probably gone over, let's say, a lot of stand-up comedies himself, right? He has done a lot of practice and he has delivered a lot of stand-up comedy, and he has been around the people and he knows what people need. He understands the context and he understands the taste. So what you need agents part or agents version of this in your company. What you need agents to have the taste, and these agents are not supposed to be the people. They are supposed to be the actual AI agents. And these AI agents, what they need to do is, just like they're able to do at Codex, right? Just like they're able to do at ChatGPT. Remember, like I initially told you, that ChatGPT is able to, let's say, build out this Codex platform, and they delivered it in such a way where all of the work that is happening across is happening through agents, and then agent is itself responsible to go to Figma and then open the Chrome browser and then do the file verification, etc., etc., etc. Of course, there is a lot of scientific things revolved around it, but that is in GPT, not in Codex, right? Codex is basically the harness layer that is built on the top of it. In same way, what you can do is, yes, you can actually leverage these GPT models, which are basically the commodity. They are going to be available for everybody. Let's say you are not going to be the one who are going to make the GPT model, but what you can do is, you can be the idea generation guy. You can be the taste guy. You can be the guy who have the agents that are very specifically known at how to do the stand-up comedy. And let me tell you how. Let's say this agent one delivers on some idea. That agent one knows that how do you do the email marketing, right? I was going through this guy's video. He basically says that there are several different ways for you to apply the auto research loop. Auto research loop is the basic idea where you are able to, let's say, come up with a new idea, right? It will be having some set of constraints, some set of version of you, right? And then you are able to run it, let's say, on some program, and then you are able to evaluate the result, right? In same way, what happens is that auto research, you can, by the way, play with it too. Like if you go and then copy this Karpathy's repository, auto research, you can play with it too. But basically he's trying to say is that he sent out the cold emails, right? So this was the idea, this was the use case, right? He sent out the cold email to a lot of people, and he sent out the cold email to I think 1,000 people, and then he was able to measure the response of this. So let's say there is agent 1, right? Agent 1 was changed, the agent 1 initially got the baseline of the cold email, right? And that cold email is, let's say, the mail 1, mail version 1 2, right? And then the agent 2 comes up with the different kind of format for the same mail, right? And then it comes up with the mail version 2, right? Mail version 3. So now let's say mail version 3 gets more users, it gets more open rate. Now, but agent 1 can do is agent 1 can actually learn from agent 2 from the realistic points that are happening across in the world, and they can actually come up with a better version themselves, right? And let's say you have the set of agents in your company. It is not just one agent, but it is agent 3, agent 4, agent 5, right? And these agents themselves maintain the memory whenever they deliver on something to the users. Let's say it can be the email, it can be the feature that it came up with, and it can be that, let's say, your whole loop, it decided on 10 different features, and or let's say 10 different paths, right, to deliver on your idea, to deliver on your product. And they are now going to, let's say, test it out in the market, that whichever is going to work, and then whichever is going to work, whichever is going to get the actual users, or whichever is actually going to get the main work done, will get the reward, and the agents are going to learn from it. So the same thing that is happening with the codex, right? Harness engineering, where they're able to automate 40% of the planning part as well. The same thing that this guy has done with the cold email, and I would argue that the same thing can actually be done with every single other thing as well. The same thing is being done by the 11 labs as well. 11 labs basically now have the agents that is running in the market. 11 labs, if you go to them, right, that's the company who provide a very best, let's say, the voice agents. And these voice agents are basically those where it is able to talk to customers through their own voice, right? And then it is able to work as the support agent. Now what's happening is that these people have deployed their whole model to the actual enterprises, and they are now going to collect the data that which customer support agent is performing best, which prompts were used, and they are going to iterate over those prompts and then deploy the better version of 11 labs agents, right? And they are going to do it 10 times, 100,000 times. And what's going to happen is that somebody who only have access to models, he will not be able to outcompete with 11 labs through 11 agents, because they have collected so much of data, they have the better harness layer, and then nobody will be able to, let's say, compete with them, right? And the same thing is actually happening across all the different, let's say, industry, right? Now Kling.ai, the same thing that is happening, right? Kling.ai basically built videos, right, where they are able to, let's say, build a really good platform, build a really good video, and then they're able to kind of know that, okay, is the video good or not, is the video going to perform good or not, and then they're able to feed it back to their model and then say that, okay, like what actually went wrong, right? The user can give them the feedback that I really wanted it to be cinematic version, or what users are actually going to do is they're going to generate the video, and then they are going to redo it by asking it that I wish that it was the cinematic video because I wanted it to be the advertisement platform for iPhone. Now this harness layer is actually going to learn that how to actually create a better video from the user feedback itself, and that is where the humans come in. So if you look at this, right, now if all of this agentic development that is happening is through agents, right, then where do the humans come in? And that is exactly where the humans come in. Human in the loop. Human in the loop is basically your customer itself. The end product, the end user who is going to use your product, he's going to be the guy who is going to be actually building your product. So this also means one more thing, that it becomes very important for any company to be first in the market. And that is why I think Google will have an edge. That is why I think OpenAI will have an edge. That is why I think CloudCode will have an edge on any other company. The companies that are just in this zone where they are just having the product roadmap, 100 engineers delivering 1,000 features on every 6 months or something, they will not be able to outcompete with this idea house that is going to be 1,000 different agents performing and delivering on different things, and then figuring out what users love a lot. And this is Instagram algorithm basically, but for software development. What is Instagram algorithm? Instagram algorithm is basically an algorithm where the whole platform is built based on your likings, that if you do like to watch cars, then whole Instagram platform is going to be built in such a way that it will show you cars, right? So the same way what's going to happen is that OpenAI is going to understand all of us. The ChatGPT is going to understand all of us. 11 Labs is going to understand all of us by region, right? By the profession. And what 11 apps is going to do is 11 apps is going to deploy all of these agents that talk different, based on different, let's say, ethnicity, based on different professions, based on different kind of frustration that the customer is showing. And they will be able to do that because they have collected all of this data. The company that is going to be, let's say, best at selling the travel tickets will be that one that is going to, let's say, make it easier. Or let's take another example, right? Let's say there is a business guy, and then let's say there is a guy who wants to buy the ticket at the cheapest price, and let's say there is a guy who wants to just impress his girlfriend by going to different South Asian countries. So there are the 3 different profiles, right? What these agents are going to do is they're going to understand the user persona, and they're going to show the different UI to all of these people, and they will be able to say that, okay, the guy who is a business guy buys the ticket whenever we just show him the bestest, let's say, the direct route, and then he buys the most expensive ticket because he doesn't really care about money, he cares about time. And same thing when he show it to the guy who is, let's say, in the middle class, he likes to care about money a lot. So if we just show him the cheapest ticket, he likes it a lot, and then he just books it, right? And then the guy who is into showing off to his girlfriend or wife, and who wants to like travel with his wife, if you show him more romantic, let's say, areas or beaches or countries which are more charming in nature with some blogs in style, right, then he's going to purchase, let's say, the package a bit more. So this is what's going to happen, that all of these platforms which understand the user more and more, and they collect the data more and more and more, are going to actually be the first companies to reach the $1 billion. And they will just outpace all other companies which runs with the old generation model, which is product roadmap and 100 engineers, and then trying to build out the 1,000 features with the roadmap of 4 months. Yes, there will be this idea of delivering once in Q4, but that will be for GPTs, that will be for harder problems, that will be when, let's say, DeepSeek wants to solve and save the cost by 10x, right? That's not going to be because they want to deliver a feature. So that's the whole idea, and that is why I say that when you look at these companies saying that now they do 40% of development through agents, just know that it is not as same as doing 40% of development through OpenAI, or 40% of development through Codex, or 40% of development through Cloud Code. It is completely different picture. They are in completely different arena, and if you want to compete with them, you have to think about the product cycle, you have to think about the product in a very different way, and then you have to be one of them. Yeah, that's it. I think that's enough for today's video, and please do subscribe me, reach out to me on Twitter, and I will be able to, let's say, I would definitely want to learn from all of you. Basically, I'm myself an AI engineer, and I'm going to, let's say, publish some of the courses too, like on harness engineering specifically, as I'm very interested in it, and I think I'm going to learn a lot by talking about it, and I myself like it a lot. So hopefully you like it too. Do subscribe me, comment down the new topic that you would want me to talk about. Thank you.